Now, when you think of Transformers, the first thing you might think of is Bumblebee. The original 80s cartoon, the movies, and probably somewhere in that, the famous leader himself, Optimus Prime. Now, when you think of Optimus Prime, you might think of a sweet fatherly figure, or a brutal murderer, whichever one you like. Voiced by mostly Peter Cullen, with that smooth, rich, sultry, father-type voice.
Guess I was hoping Devastator might join the Autobots for good, but that's probably just a dumb old dream.
Hang on to your dreams, Chip. The future is built on dreams. Hang on.
And in my opinion, very few Optimus Prime figures have been able to capture that feeling. For a franchise that's been around for 39 years, I feel like the Optimus Prime that we know and love has been very hard to capture in action figure form. I mean, there was classics, but it's pretty modernized and very outdated by today's standards. There was Combiner Wars, which we don't talk about Combiner Wars. MP10 was called one of the best Optimus Primes, or the best Optimus Prime, for a really long time, but now, on the secondary market, he's just as expensive as MP44 Plus was on release. In 2019, pretty much all of that changed with the release of Siege War for Cybertron. It promised a new, slick, Cybertronian-styled Optimus Prime, and if you were around in the Transformers community in 2019, you know that people loved that figure. It was pretty much the closest G1 Optimus we had ever gotten up until that point, at least in the Generations line. See, Siege's whole thing was Cybertronian alt modes, and they barely cybernized some of those figures. And Optimus was just one of them that was painfully close to what we wanted, but it was just that much off. But in late 2019, Hasbro revealed the new line, Earthrise, and people would love this new line almost immediately. I mean, it gave us new characters that hadn't gotten updates in a pretty long time, like Hoist and Grapple, and amongst those gems of the first wave, there was, of course, the best looking mainline Optimus to date. Of course, I'm talking about today's subject, the Earthrise Optimus Prime. If you've been with the channel for a while, you know that this figure, and others using its mold, have been my favorite figures in my collection since 2020. I mean, seriously, there's no way you can tell me with confidence that this figure isn't the best mainline Optimus we've ever gotten. Shit, I think it's still better than the Bumblebee one. This figure really comes out the gate swinging, with the blocky and chunky design that we all know and love. The chest is so perfect for a callback of that original animated look. The arms are nice and chunky. The smokestacks could be a little bit bigger, but safety standards. The way his figure slims down to the hips, and then the immediately recognizable thighs, and the classic blue shins. And on top of those just basic Optimus Prime traits, the mechanical detailing on this thing is perfect. Simple, but it still gives you something to look at, which is exactly how modern G1 figures should be. Something I really wanted to mention was that amazing head sculpt. If you did know, it is reused from the Siege Optimus, but it's perfect reuse. It really captures the essence of the character. One thing I did prefer on the Siege one is that they painted his nose bridge under the mask silver, which really made the eyes pop more. But despite that, I have no complaints. It still looks damn near perfect. And I mentioned his skinny waist that goes down to the hips. Well, you might see that there's a little bit of kibble on him. That's right, his tire cheeks, which are very high up on his ass to call them cheeks, but they do hinder the front silhouette quite a bit. But that's not really a problem. All you have to do is untab him, and it's just on a metal bar. Snap off, go about your day. You just take it off, and he looks so much better without him. Now, given as long as you don't lose him, it looks good, but hey, we all have storage somewhere if you're a collector. Despite his blocky proportions, he moves incredibly well. The legs are nice and long, which allows for some great posability. His transformation gives him backwards butterfly joints, which just adds a lot of character to almost any fighting pose you put this guy in. Arms, while being not quite as nimble and thin as the Siege version, still move very well. And this figure was the first in a long line since then that they added Finger articulation. I said I didn't really have a problem with the short, stubby arms, but it actually does hinder one thing, which actually is a perfect segue into the accessories, which to my knowledge is the first mainline Matrix we had gotten in a long time. It was a pretty big deal, at least for me. The paint is kind of sloppy, but it's 3 years old at this point, and I can't really blame it. The translucent blue they used is really nice and dark, and it just shines so well when you put it up next to a light. While he can open his chest to reveal it very well, and the opening fingers do allow him to hold it pretty tight, he just can't quite do the lighting the darkest hour thing. But by raising the arms above his head, he can kinda sorta pull it off. Another iconic Optimus Prime weapon he comes with is the Ion Blaster. But to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of it. It feels very short and flat, which isn't really how I envisioned the classic Ion Blaster. But nevertheless, the sculpt is good, the paint is good, and it fits perfectly right into his hand. And if you want it to, it folds in half and stores right on his back. Know where else this thing can store? In the included base. Just get a good port inside of it and fits right in there. And to be honest, I'm not really sure how I feel about this. Not the weapon storage, just the base itself. I mean, it's a nice addition, and it's what made this figure a leader class price point, but it just feels flimsy and hollow. But just like Optimus, it's packed full of really nice circuit and wire detail. And you even get the little repair bot that can actually detach and go on Optimus's back. Also, look at that shield. Besides some paint scratches that happened over the years, this robot mode is perfect in my eyes. But what about vehicle mode? So, after a pretty ingenuitive and fun transformation, we get probably the most accurate 80s cab Optimus Prime since MP44, maybe. I really don't see how anybody can complain about this truck mode. It's just beautiful. I really love the windshield here, and I didn't really mention it in robot mode, but it's really clever how they did it. They put a silver piece of plastic under the metallic blue, which really makes it pop and look very shiny. Other than the new faux piece grille, it looks amazing. And oh no! Faux pieces! Seriously, shut up. Because if a fake piece bothers you in Transformers, go eat sand. It doesn't hinder robot mode or truck mode at all. It actually just improves both. All the wheels roll very nicely, and that's pretty much it for the truck. But that's not it for the trailer, which for some people can be a little small, but this thing as is already takes up a lot of storage space, so I don't think I would have anywhere to put it if it was any bigger. Really start to notice the size when you put it on him. Even then, it looks perfectly fine. I know that the size still annoys people, but go touch grass. But after that, that's pretty much it for this truck mode. Just pretty perfect all the way around. And as I wrap the video up, I'm just reminded of why this figure is my favorite figure in my collection since it came out. From his perfect silhouette to the matrix of leadership in his chest, it is, in my opinion, the best Optimus Prime ever. He really stands out on any display you put him on with any version of this figure you have. I think this is the figure that is the most photogenic in my collection, and the figure that I've taken the most photos of. Seriously, how could you not love this figure? Even the transformation is fun. And I never call a transformation fun. But the downside to this figure, and other figures using this mold, is that he's really expensive. On the secondary market, he's over twice what his retail price was, despite so many versions of this figure being available. But if you're willing to part way with your money, and he's going to be your mainline Optimus, he is well worth it in my opinion. And honestly, I don't think his status will be changing in my mind anytime soon. And for me, that's just prime.
Amazing. A booby trap that actually catches boobies. Boobies, 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 boobies. Oh, Christ!